welcome to my channel. Today we are talking about Her Soul for a Crown by Alysha Rameera. Alysha Rameera is a Sri Lankan, German, and American author who likes to write about obscure historical figures, romance, and magic. Published on August 12, 2025, it has 339 ratings on Goodreads and 125 ratings on Storygraph, with an average of 3.6 stars. Rameera mentions in her author's note that she wrote Her Soul for a Crown as a what-if scenario about the historical figure Anula, who was considered the first Sri Lankan Regina. Anula is also known for having poisoned 6 Rajas to keep her power. Her Soul for a Crown takes Anula's life and looks at it from a perspective of a ruler wanting to protect her people. So I'm going to read the publisher's description of the book as posted on Storygraph. For readers of Sarah J. Maas, Scarlett St. Clair, and Tasha Suri's The Jasmine Throne, this epic slow-burn fantasy inspired by Sri Lankan mythology follows a fierce orphaned young woman with an affinity for poisons and revenge who would do anything to end the reign of heartless Rajas, even sell her soul to the most dangerous cursed god of all, the blood yaka Riri. Anula Ramanayake of Anuradhapura calculated her ascent the moment she was orphaned, when her village burned in an endless war and the gods forsook her prayers. First, she would marry the Raja. Then, she would poison him and take the throne for herself and her people. But when an unexpected coup thwarts her careful plans, Anula is left with one desperate option. She offers her soul to the cursed gods she renounced in exchange for the crown. In the second heavens, Riri the Blood Yaka, the most dangerous and powerful of his clan, hears her prayer. For eons, he's waited for such a valuable offering, one that could finally give him the chance to kill his divine tormentor and return his fellow Yakas to their former glory on earth. Riri accepts Anula's bargain, tethering them until their goals are achieved or until they die. As the war presses on, Anula must move quickly or lose her chance to become the first Regina. But while she is skilled at many things, especially in stopping hearts, the closer she grows to Riri, the more she finds her own heart at risk. And when the time comes to fight enemies both human and divine, Anuradhapura and the heavens will never be the same. Okay, so we have 2 stories of revenge, sort of. We have Anula, who was orphaned as a child. She has a vendetta against the Raja, Commander Dilshan, and Prophet Ayan, the 3 people that she holds responsible for the destruction of her village. And then we have Riri, the Blood Yaka, who wants to stop Lord Vesamoni, who is basically a tyrant and who is torturing his family for eternity. So let's talk about the story. I gave this story 5 out of 5. Revenge stories usually go 3 ways. First, the character gets the revenge, it frees them, and they are able to move on to live their life in peace. Second, we have the character getting swept up by hatred, getting swept up by the revenge, but then they eventually realize that revenge is not worth it and they let it go and they're able to move on. And then we have the third type of revenge story, which is the character gets completely consumed by revenge, that it destroys them and probably everyone around them. Anula follows the second type. She starts off as being desperate for the crown, desperate to eliminate the enemies on her list. She sort of has a tunnel vision about the crown. Getting the crown is the only way that she knows how to get her revenge and how to save her people. Because after fleeing the village, she was taken in by Auntie Nirma. And Auntie Nirma is the leader of a network of spies, a network of soldiers, servants, a whole group of people who are preparing a coup against the Raja. As a child, when Anula stays with Auntie Nirma, she finds a poison book, so a recipe book for poisons in one of the rooms, and she confronts Auntie Nirma about it. From that point, Auntie Nirma initiates Anula into the spy network. So she gives Anula a choice, either, do nothing, or she could use her talents to save the kingdom. Anula trained to be a spy, to be a seductress, to be a poisoner, so that she could clear the way to the throne. At the start and until the midway of the book, we really see Anula internalizing Auntie Nirma's worldview. She has this, tunnel vision about the crown. That's why the crown is the only way she knows how to get her revenge and how to help her people, because that's what Auntie Nirma taught her to believe. It's like she can't see another way to help. So basically the whole coup plan hinges on her getting the crown first so that the network of spies, lawyers, soldiers can implement the changes once Anula has the crown. The book opens up with Anula accidentally poisoning a man. Sort of. She was supposed to meet with Nuwan, which is her contact. Nuwan was supposed to meet her like 30 minutes prior, but Nuwan was late. So they got into like an argument. And then Nuwan harasses Nula. So Nula was forced to... Oh no, my crown. My crown. Anyway, Anula was forced to poison him, but then she didn't expect the effect of the poison. Like, I think she was expecting the poison to paralyze only, but the new one started choking and like almost dying. So I'm bringing this up because it's gonna be a pattern that Anula poisons someone and then she doesn't expect the result because she makes the poison wrong or something like that. Just make a note about it. She was able to save the guy, Nuwan, and then she goes on her merry way. Basically, the deal was Nula paid off Nuwan to put her name on some list. I'm not so sure, but Anula wanted her name to be called next. I'm a bit unclear about that, but I'm guessing from context she wants to be the next concubine that the Raja spends time with. I think that's the point. She manages to get into the palace and she's on her way to get the crown. And then the next chapter, we go to Riri's perspective. Their POVs switch back and forth. Riri no longer has a body. He used to, but after a mistake that he did, him and all the other yakas were taken back to the second heavens. They no longer have their body. They can no longer go to Earth. It's like a limbo for him. So he's in his shadow form. He doesn't have a corporeal form, but he does feel pain. So everyone in his family, the Yakas, feel pain. And we're introduced with Lord Vesamoni, who is in his throne room casually torturing Riri's soul. So what they're doing is Riri is trying to find the perfect offering, which means an offering that Lord Vesamoni could not refuse. Because Lord Vesamoni wants the bone blade. The bone blade is a relic made by fate, capital F. And it is rumored to be able to stop death, as in give immortality. So Riri's backstory is when he materialized as a Blood Yaka, he remembers being stuck in the shrine. He remembers communing with his first human and taking the first offering. And Riri sort of realizes that that's his purpose, to commune with humans, to basically build relationships, build a community, or build a connection with another person. And Riri knows deep in his soul that there is a soul that echoes his own. So basically a soulmate. He believes that and he wants that. He wants to experience that connection and he wants to experience life. But because he is a Yaka, a demon, he and the other Yakas are bound to their shrines. They're bound to offerings, so they can't do anything. They can't act if a human is not offering a bargain with them. So it sent Riri into a depression, sort of, because he spent years like that, just being stuck in a shrine. He tried so many times to explore and walk around, things like that, but he always gets snapped back to his shrine. And then eventually he just stopped trying. Then one day, another Yaka, one of the oldest ones, visits him. Riri is surprised by this because how come the other Yaka was able to leave the shrine? So the older Yaka explains that the more powerful you are, the longer your leash is. And the way to be more powerful is to get more offerings from humans. So Riri comes up with this plan where he just says yes to every bargain. He doesn't say no. Until eventually word spreads. The bargains no longer are like for blessings, for health. It starts becoming for revenge, for blood, for sickness, and Riri accepts all the offerings. He makes the humans' wishes come true until eventually every human is going to him. And Riri is able to leave his shrine. He's able to explore, he's able to live, love, laugh, and then he goes and visits his family, and then he realizes every other Yaka is bound to their shrine because humans no longer offer to them. They only offer to the Blood Yaka Riri. Riri realizes that there's no point with him being free if his family is not there to experience life with him. So Riri comes up with another plan. He tells the humans no, he doesn't accept the bargain unless they go offer something to the other Yakas. Eventually, all the Yakas can leave their shrine. They have enough offerings. It's all equally spread out. And for 3 months, they live, love, laugh. They party. They commune with each other. But then with the offerings and with the bargains, they get the attention of the Katadiya. So the Katadiya is a group of... they're a cult. They're a group of people. They're kind of a cult that believes they are mandated by the first heaven to banish yakas. Basically, they exorcise the yakas, they kind of rip their souls apart, I think permanently. So the Katadiya arrive while the Yakas were live love laughing, and then they summoned Lord Vesamoni. So Lord Vesamoni can only come to Earth twice a year during the Yala season and the Maha seasons per the cosmic rules. So the Katadiya, they summoned Lord Vesamoni in one of these seasons, and Lord Vesamoni rains down punishment. He grabs the Yakas' souls, their bodies are destroyed, and he takes them back to the second heaven to be punished for all eternity. And that's where the Riri and the other Yakas are in the present. Riri holds himself responsible, and Lord Vesamoni doesn't let him forget it either. He would bring it up to Riri as a means to beat him down or control him, and Riri kind of internalizes that because he himself believes that he was the one to blame because it was his plan. He was the one who imbalanced the cosmos. Because yes, what he did with the scheming and the releasing the yakas, manipulating the bargains, it broke the cosmic balance. From their backstories and from the motivations, there's a parallel and juxtaposition between Riri's and Anula's motivations. So Anula wants revenge, she wants death, she wants to kill those who destroyed her village and her family. And then we have Riri, who wants to destroy Lord Vesamoni to protect his family who are alive and suffering yet unable to move on. I would argue that Riri's arc is actually a redemption arc instead of a revenge arc. Killing Lord Vesamoni is just the means to get that redemption. There's a solid story there. I think it's very rich. It's very intriguing. I just wish the parallel and the juxtaposition were played up more in the narrative. I wish there was more focus on that because you kind of see the threads throughout, but it doesn't come into the center stage. So that's the story. That's the characters as well, which again, 5 out of 5. They're very intriguing, interesting backstory, engaging backstory. I would like to read more about them. So now let's talk about plot. So Anula is in the concubine palace. I think on her first night, she meets this servant girl named Pramala. Pramala was sneaking around while Anula was also sneaking around. So they kind of just caught each other. Pramala was trying to pick a lock, and then Anula saw her, and Pramala was not able to pick the lock. Anula, she has a physical list that Auntie Nirma gives her with names of allies and enemies. So allies or enemies. And Pramala was neither on the list. So this kind of piques Anula's interest as to why this servant girl is like skulking around the same time she was skulking around. The reason why Anula was sneaking around, by the way, was she wanted to get some seeds from a flower in the courtyard garden that she needs for her poison. As she's going back to her room, she meets Pramala. So Anula ends up talking to Pramala, trying to figure out if she's ally or if she's an enemy. She can't figure it out. Pramala is just this nervous, meek girl, but she also acts suspicious because she can't really lie well. Her excuse was she was out getting mangoes in the dead of the night. Then they almost get caught by guards in the hall. Anula is just standing there, and then Pramala pulls her behind like a potted plant. And there's this moment where Anula was like, "She saved me." And I just made a note about that.
Chill, it's not the big deal. Like, she pulled you behind a plant. It's not a very heroic action.
But yeah, from then on, Anula thinks of Pramala, like wondering what or who she is and who she's allied with. Anyway, we get just more information about the palace. So one of my favorite things in Her Soul for a Crown is the blessed gifts. So the divinities, they left relics behind. Some more powerful, some more amusing. So in this palace, the Raja's palace that they call the in-between, we have paintings that you can walk into. Like, you can interact with whatever is happening on the scene. We have statues who tell fortune. We have a magic headboard with carvings that talk and interact with you. And then, of course, we have the powerful bone blade that can give you immortality. I like that. I think it's really fun and kind of makes you think what effects the relic have in the larger world, because it doesn't really touch on that. I will bring this up again. The book doesn't really touch the world outside Anuradhapura. But yeah, with this powerful relics just scattered around, divinities are not like mythology. They're not like a fairy tale. They're actual real characters. They're actual real creatures interacting with this universe. So how does that kind of power affect Earth? We don't really get to see that beyond Anuradhapura. Anyway, yeah, I love the blessed gifts. I love the magic. What was I saying? Yeah, so they're in the palace, and then Anula gets her chance to meet with the Raja. Anula gets taken into this hallway where the blessed gifts are. That's why I brought it up. She almost stumbles into a painting, but then someone catches her. It turns out to be the Raja. The Raja invites Anula to dine. I think they're eating right at the hall, the Grand Central place. They're eating, they're talking, they're drinking wine. Anula starts flirting. She starts flattering the Raja, just seducing him. She manages to put her persuasion tincture in the Raja's drink. It doesn't really explain how she does it. It just says she touched her necklace and then suddenly the poison is there while they're eating in a public space in the middle of this central area. The Raja drinks the wine, drinks the tincture, and the poison is effective. This is one of 2 times that Anula's poison works as intended. The Raja drinks the tincture and he starts becoming very suggestible. Suggestible. Anula says, "You will make me your queen." And it's like, "I will make you my queen. You will marry me tomorrow. I will marry you tomorrow." That kind of thing. After one meeting, after one conversation, after one page screen with the Raja, he is seduced and Anula is engaged. So this whole thing about, the big goal, wanting to get the crown, it's virtually achieved. From the description, it hints a bigger plot. But at the same time, for Anula, who has been waiting for this moment probably her whole teenage years, I feel like she should have had more emotional reaction to it. I mean, she does have an emotional reaction, but it doesn't land proportionally to what Anula's motives are. She waited 12 years to get this chance to get revenge. And finally, she is named wife. She is about to marry the Raja. So she's almost there, and yet there's no lasting impact. Because then we switch to Riri's perspective, which is him giving his backstory. And then we go back to Anula preparing for the wedding. And yeah, the wedding comes. I believe that's chapter 10 or something. I don't remember. But yeah, it goes by really fast. The chapters are very short as well, so you really feel how fast it is. Anula is getting married. No one questions it. There's no other concubines to question it. Because usually, if you are a concubine, whether you're there willingly or not, presumably you have privileges. One, you're staying in the inner city, which is only accessible to wealthy people and the royalty. You're living in the royal palace, like you're in the royal grounds. You have your own concubine estate with the other concubines, but you're in the palace. It's a fancy place. There's status and financial stability, no matter if you're there, happily or kind of just tolerating it. Either way, I think there should have been a reaction from the other concubines, because we don't really see the other concubines. We just see Anula. She mentions like, oh, there's other concubines walking around, but she doesn't really interact with them. We don't really see them. So it feels like there's no risk for Anula to be chosen as wife, because we don't really see the other choices. There's no competition.
We're not a team. This is a competition.
Even though Anula would be internally worried about not being chosen, as a reader, you don't see any risk, because again, you don't see the concubines, you don't see the competition. And then, in addition to that, she succeeds to seduce the Raja at her first try, at their first meeting. The risks doesn't feel real, like the risks to Anula. There's no conflict, and there's no acknowledgement as well that there's a larger world tied into this. Because yeah, we only see Anula, we only see her goal, that's it. The other concubines, even though they're mentioned, they don't appear, they don't matter. This is in chapter 9. The wedding happens. Auntie Nirma is there. Everyone is there. They're invited. They are about to go through with the wedding. Suddenly, there is an attack. Yeah, so a usurper named Choranaga, who was hinted to be allied with Polonnaruwa, the nearby kingdom that Anuradhapura is having war with. They manage to get into the palace somehow. How did this happen? No one alerted from outside the palace. There's no hints. There's one hint. Auntie Nirma gives Anula a letter that says, usurper on the move, allied with palace traders in Polonnaruwa kingdom, must hurry. That was mentioned shortly after Anula arrived at the concubine estate. There's no hint after that. Yeah, it just says, usurper on the move, allied with palace traders in Polonnaruwa kingdom, must hurry. So if Auntie Nirma was able to get a note this early, why were they not able to kind of predict that there's going to be an attack at this day, or at least guess that there's going to be an attack on this day? Anyway, the wedding gets interrupted. By the way, this is the age of usurpers. So basically, kings change all the time. Someone challenges the king, they become king. Someone else challenges the king. So it's like a rotation of usurpers, basically. That's why it's called the age of usurpers. And Anula's goal is to stop the cycle by being the Regina. Hello, we're back. I had to pause to let my camera cool down, and I went to get a snack, and I just remembered that we have stickers. So my sister and I have an online bookshop. It's called Cosmos, Valour and Vows. The website is cosmosvalorandvows.ca. We're based in Canada. It's an online shop, and we recently received the first batch of stickers. That's our logo. It's like holographic. I don't know if you can see that, but it's not up on the website yet, but it will go up soon. So if you want some stickers with our logos, you can go head on to cosmosvalorandvows.ca. We also have bookmarks. So it's original designs by my sister and I. So my sister drew the little dogs. I gave her the idea. It says, read rough rough. And yeah, there's cute puppies in there. Check out cosmosvalorandvows.ca if you want bookmarks or stickers. We also have merch like caps, tote bags with our logo, which is, again, I'll make an insert to add like what the actual logo looks like. But yeah, if you're interested, head to cosmosvalorandvows.ca. Anyway, let's continue where we left off. So yeah, the wedding is interrupted by this new usurper called Chora Nagra. I'm just gonna read the part where he interrupts. Raja Mahakuli Mahatisa, a man called out above the noise, sword raised over his head. The usurper, no doubt. Face me and prove your worth, or die by the hand of a greater man. The sea of fighting parted, and the Raja stepped forward, swinging his sword. No! Anula burst free of the soldier, reaching for the Raja. With Antinirma safe, it was up to her to salvage their plan. If the Raja died, he surged. This is my kingdom. Then he tripped, sprawled. The crown bounced away as he laid bare his neck. Only for a moment, yet plenty of time for a usurper. They were great at one thing and one thing only, taking the heads of Rajas. Blood squirted from Hakuli Mahatisa's throat, gushing over his murderer like a waterfall. A dark mass of flesh flew through the air, thumped against the throne room floor, and rolled toward Anula's feet. She looked into the dead eyes of the Raja's crownless head. Thrice cursed Yakas. There was a beat, a sound of rushing wind and waves between her ears, a memory of another man dead at her feet. She shook it away, refocused. She couldn't become a dead Raja's wife. She'd have to... How dare you, Chora Naga? A voice yelled above the cacophony of fighting. No, she was supposed to be out of the palace. The usurper laughed, meeting the fuming gaze of an old woman in an emerald green sari. Hello, Nirma. Anula blanched. They knew each other. We had a deal, Antinirma said. You would stand down, and in time Anula would make you Raja. Lie. The thought flew through her mind as she recovered. Antinirma's missive had said Chora Naga was in league with Polonnaruwa. This deal must have been part of her second plan, the one they'd implement for the rival kingdom once justice was served here. It was surely a ploy. A failed ploy. I got tired of waiting, Chora Naga yelled. Besides, the kingdom can't be ruled by some woman. The spear flew from Chora Naga's arm, sang in the air. The crunch of bone echoed as it cleaved Antinirma's chest, ribs splintering. The world tilted. Anura Dapura is mine, Chora Naga screamed. War cries pulsed in Anula's ears. Auntie, she breathed, tripping to the prone body on the floor. Auntie, speak to me. Blood bloomed like a rose among thorns. So 2 notes about this scene. I don't know what the intention was to have the Raja trip and therefore die. Like, is it for comedy? I don't think so. I don't think it's for comedy because it completely ruins the mood of what's going on here, especially a few pages after Antinirma dies. So I don't think it's for comedic purposes. So why have the Raja trip and get his head cut off? I don't understand. If it's saying something like life is very fickle, you don't really know like when you're gonna die or not, I don't think the mood fits in with the rest of the scene. It feels very ridiculous. It feels very parody-like. So I don't know. It didn't work for me. Let me know what you think. Was it funny? Like, did it make you laugh without intending to make you laugh? Do you get more sinister vibe? Or do you get more of a vibe that it's about fickleness and, you know, fate's turning on you when you least expect it? Let me know. Anyway, the second thing I want to say here is there is a lack of spatial clarity. How big was the room they were in? Because I'm assuming because it's a wedding, like in the throne room, usually it's long. The throne rooms are long. So if the wedding was happening here, Anula and the Raja were here, and then Toranaga came from here, that's quite the space, right? And then Antinirma, where did Antinirma even show up? Like, was she in the middle? Was she behind Choranaga? Where in space did she come from that Choranaga was able to throw the spear aimed right at her chest and close enough for Anula to run to Antinirma? There's good descriptions here, like, you know, the paintings and stuff. It's just sometimes there's no establishing I was gonna say establishing shot, but that's for film. But yeah, the establishing shot in film uses it to, set up the setting, like set up the location. In the book, there's no equivalent to that. We don't know where things are. We don't know how far each characters are relatively to each other. So it's hard to visualize what's going on. Yes, I can imagine the spear being thrown. I can imagine the spear going through Antinirma's chest. But then when Anula goes to Antinirma, how does she move? Where does she go? I can't picture it because it doesn't give us any spatial description, any spatial information. So it's hard to visualize the scene because usually when I read the book, it plays like a movie in my mind. Sometimes if the descriptions are really vivid, like the imagery is really good, I even forget that I'm reading words. I just see the pictures in my mind. For this book, it was hard for me to do that. Like the picture won't picture. um, Anyway, yes, those are the two things that I wanted to say. That's why I brought up that scene. Okay, let's move on. Auntie Nirma dies. Her last words to Anula is Yakas. So Auntie Nirma and Anula's mom, they are pious. They believe in the Yakas. They believe in the divinities. Anula used to, but then after the destruction of her village, she prayed to the Blood Yaka. She prayed to Riri himself, but Riri did not answer. So after that night, after that day, Anula no longer believes in the heavens. She just thinks it's empty. So when Auntie Nirma tells Anula, like Yakas, it kind of confuses her and throws her off a bit. But as the chaos ensues, Choranaga is partying because he is the Raja now and his soldiers are wreaking havoc in the palace, which again, we don't know how many died. We don't know if anyone died. Some people probably got hurt. Some people probably died. The soldiers probably died. But what are the casualties? Did they go after the ministers? Who died? What extent is the damage? We don't get any of that. Not even later on as things calm down. So chapter 10, Anula is in denial that Auntie Nirma is dead. Anula and the rest of the palace people are fleeing. Anula is thinking about Auntie Nirma's last words to her and she's like, I don't need riddles, I need a miracle. And then it hits her. She is going to make an offering to the Yakas because she is desperate, and then she has Auntie Nirma's voice in her head saying Yakas. It's set up here that Anula is basically following Auntie Nirma's plans. It's going to be a thread later on that we'll get there. So she goes to the palace shrine. She offers her soul for a crown. I'm just gonna read the invocation, I guess. Great Blood Yaka of the second heavens, hear my prayer. Grant me the first crown as Regina of Anuradhapura. Anula spoke loudly. For today, I offer my soul. Chapter 11. Riri and the Yakas hear the offering of a soul and they think this is their chance. This is the special offering they've been waiting for. So they go to Lord Vesamoni. They convince him that this is their time. This is their chance to find the bone blade. Lord Vesamoni agrees. He will give... So Riri himself makes a bargain with Lord Vesamoni and Lord Vesamoni agrees. Riri will go to Earth and find the bone blade. He has until the Maha season to do it. If he fails, he will be the Yaka's tormentor for eternity. I'm just gonna read it. Riri's shadows coiled, the faces of his brethren enthralled in suffering, his hand on a whip, his nails sinking into. The fault lies with you, Riri. Never forget that. Have we a bargain? Vesamoni asked. Riri shook loose the nightmare. It would not come to pass. He would find the blade. He would kill their lord. Yes, Riri brought the glowing shadow offering close and whispered, Daughter of Earth, your prayer has been heard. So chapter 12, they're gonna do the bargain. There's this whole thing, like candles get snuffed, there's smoke. It's very demon summony, which is exactly what's happening. Anula says saffron eyes flash open. The Daughter of Earth, the shadow spoke, deep and wispy, there and yet far away. Your prayer has been heard. What request do you seek? Its features pulsed, shifting slightly. A chill prickled her skin. The shadow was no statue, no man. Those eyes not truly eyes at all. It could never be handsome, because it was a Yaka. The knowing settled deep, but this was strong. Yakas were not shadows. They weren't ever seen, not since they'd walked the earth centuries ago. Amma would have told her if she'd seen them. Auntie Nirma too, if only to prove they'd been right. Which begged the question, why are you here? The shadow cocked his head. I am the Blood Yaka Riri, answering the offering of a soul, unless you are not the offerer. The faint sound of singing sneaked under the door. It skirted up Anula's arms. The usurper was celebrating. Yes, I made the offering, but... You distrust me, the shadow finished her sentence solemnly. Devils aren't known for being trustworthy. How do I know you're who you say you are? Anula's veins throbbed. She glanced at her mehendi-covered hands. Blue-green ridges rose to her skin as her blood rushed below the surface. A wave of adrenaline spiked her senses and sent her heart crashing against her ribs. And then it released. The undertow retreated, withdrew, and stars twinkled at the edges of her sight as the force stole her footing. She collapsed to the cold floor, heart tripping over a beat. Once, twice, 3 times, until it finally settled again. Trust me now? The shadow asked. Absolutely not. One note about the scene here, which I find kind of took me out a bit, when Anula asked, "Why are you here?" You went to the palace shrine to summon a blood yaka, invoking the summoning words, and you are surprised that he's there? I don't know, it just took me out. I had to make a note, like, what do you mean, why are you here? You called him. Anyway, they don't trust each other. Throughout this scene, they don't really talk about the terms and conditions of the bargain. Anula just says, "No," she asserted, chin high. "I want the throne of Anuradhapura to be the first Regina from this day forward until the anniversary of my 50th birth year." How specific. I leave nothing to chance, or make the same mistake twice. She trusted this yaka once before, she would not again. Neither do I. The shadows swirled around her. Let us agree on new terms. You will have the throne of Anuradhapura after your soul tethers us to earth to tend to unfinished business. Tether? Us? She didn't know which word sounded worse. 4 yakas for the price of a crown. She scoffed. To tend to unfinished business. Is that your polite way of saying you have more people you want to kill? I know why you were banished, and I wouldn't be much of a Regina if I willingly put people in danger. No human shall die, that I'll promise you. The shadow rippled, its voice dropping low. Stories are told from the victor's view. It does not mean they are true. Do we have a bargain? The shadow asked. The chanting grew louder, heavier, knocking against the walls of the corridor, banging against the door, beating out a rhythm. Choranaga, Choranaga, Choranaga. Like a war drum, Choranaga, Prophet Ayan, Commander Dilshan. The yaka had said it wouldn't kill. No usurper could say that. What was the harm then? Yes, Anula breathed and thrust out her hand, a soul for a crown. Just make a note that Anula said, and I wouldn't be much of a Regina if I willingly put people in danger. Just make a note of that. Okay, now we go to part 2, chapter 13. After the bargain is struck, Riri and 3 other yakas, so Kalu, Kama, and Sohon, they go possess people. Because, yeah, they don't have a physical body, so they need to possess people. The people won't die, they just kind of go into this coma limbo. Riri says it's like they're asleep. As long as the body doesn't get physically harmed, the people who they possessed would be fine. Riri possesses Choranaga and names Anula as Regina Consort. So it's Regina Consort, not Regina. And there's like a binding tattoo, like it's pretty extensive, like it goes to the chest, the hands. It has like elephant and a lion motif, as well as like I think like floral and like plant patterns. After this declaration that Anula is the Regina Consort, they go speak privately, and right away Anula is angry. What in the cursed yaka's name have you done? Where is my bargain? She shouldn't speak to the blood yaka in that way, she knew. All the stories of old cast them as reveling in blood and pain. But she was the one who had called them. She was the one who had bargained. She was in control. She wouldn't let them see the fear that snaked up her spine and coiled around her heart. The blood yaka straightened to full height. You will have your bargain as agreed upon. First, I thought it best you were introduced to those you tether. Anula blanched. Did he expect her to spend time with them? The deal was a soul and a tether for a crown, not an ally. A man with peppered hair cleared his throat. Anula recognized him immediately. Viran, advisor to Raja Mahakuli Mahatisa, loyally dedicated to Anuradhapura, a potential ally, or so Auntie Nirma thought. I am Kalu, Yaka of the Mind. So the Yakas, they have their own dominions. When they say Riri is the blood Yaka, he has a domain over the physical body, not just blood. Kind of like the way he controlled Anula's blood and the adrenaline at the beginning when she provokes him to prove who he was. Kalu is the Yaka of the Mind. He deals with like insanity. He deals with a peaceful mind, that kind of thing. Kama is one of the ladies of love. So there are a group of love Yakas. Kama is one of them. Patron of lust. And then we have Sohon, who is the Yaka of memories. Riri tries to get everyone introduced. His expectation was they're gonna work together. Anula goes, where is my crown? Anula spun on the blood yaka. She dug her nails deeper. The yaka in the usurper skin leveled a guarded gaze. I have yet to complete my business here. I tethered you. That was the bargain. The terms are for our business to be completed. Then you will have your crown. A nail broke flesh. How long? With luck, no time at all. And without it? The blood yaka glanced over her shoulder. Mayhap would you like to retire to the bedchamber? It has been a long day for you. Oh, has it? She laughed hard, swatted away the last image of Auntie Nirma in her cold eyes, as though it were a fly and not a jagged stone burrowing into what remained of her heart. I hadn't noticed. Yes, why don't we retire to the bedroom where you can make me forget my miseries with the gentle touches of a husband? Or do you prefer it rougher, more deception and dominance? Perhaps that's your business here. To get off on, Kalu snorted. Apologies if I had a kahapuna for every sexual thought really had. I would be poorer than a fisherman with no net. Anula grimaced. How comforting. A vein in the blood yaka's forehead throbbed. I only meant, you made a fool of me once already, she seethed. It won't happen again. Yeah, part 2 is where Anula lost me. This is where the plot lost me because it will get repetitive in the middle here. I read how Anula received the yakas, how she demands the crown.
When is your business going to be finished? When are you giving my crown?
Why are you not giving it to me? That thing, it gets repeated throughout chapter 2, which just gets frustrating because it's repetitive without really adding to the plot. Like there's no added nuance, there's no emotional shift. It's just a repetition with the same mistakes. Second, it introduces contradictions to Anula's character here. It introduces a lack of focus to her character. After this private conversation with the yakas, she tries to talk to the ministers, but the ministers dismiss her because they only see her as the Regina consort. She's just a wife, she's just a woman, they don't listen to her. I respect Anula here at this point. I still like her at this point because, yeah, she says she didn't need to wait until she was on the throne to do everything they had planned. Though the right like-minded political allies probably wouldn't be open to making connections now. She was in the palace, surely that was close enough for the next step, which I agree. She's actively continuing the plan. It doesn't work well with her, but she does give it a try. She actively goes and do what she was meant to do in the palace. Yeah, that's good, but it doesn't continue on. Like this one, it aligns with her want to help her people. She wants proper government. She went to the ministers because there's a traitor. Basically, Anula wants that traitor to be removed. Her mind is in the right direction at this point. But then after that, she doesn't really try again. She doesn't even try to ask Riri to be like, can you give me control over this part? Can you talk to the ministers to listen to me? Or even, can you go to the ministers and tell them to do this? Because Riri is the Raja. They have a bargain with Anula. So logically, helping each other would help themselves. But no, it doesn't happen. It doesn't even occur to Anula to try to get Riri to talk to the ministers or just order them to do what Anula says. Anula is frustrated by how the bargain went, so she ends up going to the kitchen to go and kill the prophet. And she meets Pramila again. At the beginning, I don't understand Anula's motivation to seeking out Pramila. Because at first it was because of suspicion. And then now she says, I want to make sure everyone else was right. She could be lying, but at the same time, like, I don't know her motives here. I don't understand. In the later chapters, she admits she doesn't know how to make friends. She was not trained to make friends, just allies. Not sure what's going on here yet. But yeah, Anula is trying to be friends with Pramila. So while Anula was in the kitchen, while she was talking to Pramila and stuff like that, she slips a poison, no, not poison. She gives like a sleeping potion to the guard who's following her. Now, because Regina consort, she has personal guards. So she has she chose this guard named Bithul. So yeah, Anula now has a personal guard named Bithul. Bithul was supposed to be commander, but he got an injury during the war with Polonnaruwa, like one of the skirmishes against Polonnaruwa. So he is no longer in the running to be commander. So Bithul went to the kitchen with Anula to check up on Pramila. Bithul drinks something that Anula poisoned, and Bithul just falls asleep sitting down on the table while they were eating and they were drinking. He just falls asleep right there with Pramila in the kitchen, and no one says anything about it. I'll go ahead and read it. Anula took a sip, then grabbed another cup. Bithul, come sit and eat. I'm sure your day has been as relaxing as mine. I cannot, my Regina consort, he said, eyeing the maids and every window and door. His hand twisted on the top of his cane. And if I command you? Bithul sighed, took the cup she offered, and emptied it in one long swallow. My gratitude, my Regina consort. I am fortified. Do you believe in heavens? You said before that you were destined to be commander. Was that talk, or do you truly believe the heavens gave you a purpose? That is the complicated answer, my Regina consort. He sat next to her. But yes, I believe the heavens guide my path. He sounded like Auntie Nirma. Anula sipped her tea, the heat a barrier against her heart. So you believe you'll be commander one day? Bethul smiled, the tea softening him. They never said I would be, only men did. I choose to believe that my life is unfolding as it should, as long as I remain true to myself. It's how I am able to accept this. He raised his cane, an iron piece that looked more like a scabbard than a walking stick. It's how I can serve the crown and not a man. Whoever the divinities choose to place me under, it's not for me to decide or to question. Anula clenched a fist. They never make a mistake? Never, he said solemnly, eyes heavy. Your faith is valiant. Thank you, Regina consort. It wasn't meant to be a compliment. Bethul's head nodded drowsily until it dropped heavily and rested on the table. A soft snore sounded. The tincture had worked quickly. Anula stood, ready to go to work before anything else could happen on this cursed day. Regina consort, Pramala whispered, eyeing the sleeping guard. Be careful, the palace is full of secrets and dark powers. Anula knew that, but how did Pramala? Powers? Pramala glanced around. Maids flitted this way and that, too many ears listening. Just be careful. It was all the confirmation Anula needed to know that Pramala was part of a grander scheme, one she'd have to uncover in time. First, she would rid the palace of another dark power. Don't worry, I can protect myself. Anula slipped out of the kitchen, a prayer chanting in her head. It began with the name of Prophet Ayan. I read that passage because, again, there's this lack of consequences, or there's lack of interaction with the outer world. I'm kind of slipping down. Yeah, there's a lack of interaction with the outer world. Anula just drugged a would-be commander right in the kitchen where servants can see. Pramala was right there. She probably knew that Anula drugged Bethul, and yet no one reacted, not even a bit. No one side-eyed them. Because Anula, as a trained spy, seductress, future queen, Anula would have noticed if someone was eavesdropping or watching them too closely. But no, Bethul just fell asleep on the table right there. No one questioned it. Okay, chapter 14, it's in Riri's point of view, but Anula goes to murder the prophet, but Riri stops her because the Yakas need the prophet. They need the prophet to find the bone blade. And yeah, there's this back and forth again about them fighting. Anula is not happy that they're gonna share the room. Anula is not happy that they have to stay close together because the tether requires Anula and the Yakas to be relatively close to each other. If they go beyond a certain range, Anula's tattoos, like the bargain tattoos, start to burn her skin off. It starts to peel and it starts to bleed. It's not pretty, but the longer she's away from one of the Yakas, the pain will get worse until she manages to get close to them. So Anula's not happy about that, and again, it's one more thing that she says that Riri didn't tell her, but she walked away before Riri could explain anything. So Riri and Anula have this back and forth with their the enemies to lovers thing. They don't trust each other. They're sniping at each other. Riri tries to reach out and work together, but Anula just storms off, and then eventually Riri thinks Anula is just some power-hungry, bloodthirsty, revenge-seeking person. Chapter 15. We're starting to see the romance, which I will have a lot of words. I mentioned a magic headboard with carvings. The magic headboard is inside the Raja's room, so it belongs to the Raja. The headboard is carved with the figures of the first Raja and first Regina, and they talk to you. They talk to Riri and Anula as they try to fall asleep in one bed. So it's the one bed trope. It's forced proximity. Yeah, so the carvings are just whispering them to get closer to each other. The woman flipped her long dark hair over her shoulder. Be not afraid of him. Your gentle touch will guide him to you. A shudder racked Anula's bones, either from the image conjured or from the interaction she didn't know. Speaking to a blessed gift was much different than watching fish swim in a bathing pool. Caress her hair, the depicted Raja whispered loudly to the blood yaga. See her delicate neckline? Kiss it. The yaga tensed, stolen eyes darting to Anula and away. And then, of course, Anula threatens Riri that if he touches her, blah, blah, blah. This is the start of the romance subplot where now that the headboards, the magical headboards, gave them ideas, they can't, for some reason, get the ideas out of their heads. Even though they don't like each other, even though they don't trust each other, even though they barely know each other. It's all starting here. The seeds are planted. Riri tries to like befriend Anula and try to build a partnership. Because yeah, like I said, he and the other yakas want communion. They want connection with humans and with each other. Not necessarily like romantic, but just like actually conversing with a person and just getting to know them. So it's pretty wholesome. It's a basic human need, like socializing. That's one of their desires. But Anula is not having it. She says, I bargained for a throne, Blood Yaka, not a friend. Which is, when you think about her backstory as this woman that would usher in a chance to make changes, she's going to be the queen. So through her, changes could be made, changes by Auntie Nirma and her spy network. But now that, Auntie Nirma is gone, Anula planned to contact the other network because there's a lot of them, right? So someone surely would be second in command. Anula hasn't gotten to that plan yet, but she's thinking of it. What was I saying? Yeah, having her set up as this, trained seductress, saint, future queen. Why is she rejecting an offer for allyship with a god? Because they're spirits. They're basically like minor deities. So why is she rejecting this Yaka when maybe making him an ally works for her? Because the Yakas, they don't really have allegiance to Anula's enemies. They're Yakas. They don't live on Earth. They just want to find the Bone Blade. They don't have allegiances to any kingdom. So Anula most likely doesn't have to worry about them betraying her because the Yakas are tethered to her. She's the one that they have a bargain with. They have a connection to, not the other people. So there's no really risk for them to betray her to her enemies. So like, I don't understand why she doesn't even want to try to build an allyship with the Yakas. She just straight away says, I bargained for a throne, blah Yaka, not a friend. Except at the start, she also thinks in terms of allies and enemies. Granted, she doesn't think about friends. She's not trained to have friends. She thinks enemies, allies. But why not put the Blood Yakas in the ally side? Why push them away? I don't understand that. Maybe this was done to feed that enemies to lovers trope. I'm not sure if that's the case. It feels forced. It doesn't make sense to me. Because of the tether, Anula and Riri can see each other's memories or dreams rather. If they're dreaming of the past, they can accidentally see the dreams. So Anula sees one of Riri's memories. It is the dream about the party. The Yakas really love laughing. That's before Lord Vesamoni came down and punished them. There's a lot of preconceived notions that Anula projects on Riri because there are stories about the Yakas. Riri had a reputation before by granting even terrible offerings. So he has a reputation, they have stories. So Anula doesn't really trust him, except she doesn't really give the Yakas any chance to kind of make an actual conversation. She's either very snappy about it or she just storms off. So about the memories, they are soured memories that haunt me when at rest. I call them memory nightmares. Anxiety tripped Anula's pulse. She shook out her hands. Are you saying I witnessed your dreams? The Yaka's brows knit together. I suppose it makes sense. Our souls are tethered. And what is a tether if not a connection? Why would you create a tether like that? Anula seethed. The sound of the ear dropping, wet and heavy, echoed in her mind. I did not, the Yaka said. A tether is an aspect of the cosmos. Strictly speaking, I never tethered before. The intricacies are a working theory. Then how do you know that we have to stay close to each other? Another Yaka once tethered. Ratty told me how distance hurt the human, but that is all she mentioned. Had I known about the memories, I would have warned you. Not only must I have permanent mehendi that itches and threatens me, now I have to share your nightmares too? Do you even need to sleep? Heavenly bodies must rest. It is similar but not as deep as sleep. However, every earthly body, including mine now, demands true sleep. Gritting her teeth, Anula stopped before the nearest mirror. How is any of this balance? For the first time, she allowed herself to examine the design that snaked up her arms. It began at her fingertips. Nets and spirals led to vines and leaves. Lotus flowers bloomed across her hands, and two mirrored mandalas marked her palms, one the face of a lion, the other an elephant, the same as the one etched on the Blood Yaka's chest. A chill swept over her neck. Paisley motifs and florals flowed into tendril patterns up her wrists, her arms, her elbows. Elements of gems and jewelry and stars hid within. It didn't end there. Delicate anklets snored her feet, netting on her toes. She shifted to see the patterns more closely. Her sleep robe slipping off one side. A burgundy tendril slithered across her shoulder. Anula twisted in the mirror and dropped her robe. She caught the flicker of admiration in the Yaka's eyes before he had the sense to close them. It was only a moment, but he still smoldered the way Tanta had with Amma, the way a husband would a wife, the way she had dreamt of. Anula shook the thought away. He was not her dream, but her curse. His mark dripped down her spine. At the top blossomed a water lily, with vines and leaves and florals cascading from her shoulder blades, gems dropping to points like earrings at the middle of her back. So yeah, same chapter. Now we have the lustful gazes, the heated gazes, and they barely like each other. They barely talked. Riri is actually very sweet. Like, he's in this, what do you call it, tough situation. Like, on one side, there's Lord Visamoni threatening his whole family, threatening to make him torture his own family. He's on Earth. There's Anula, his tether, their chance at finding the bone blade, and she's, she's hostile towards him, but he still tries to make friends. Yeah, there's a lot of this questioning with Anula because she doesn't trust Riri. She doesn't really know him. She has all these questions, but she keeps it in her head. She doesn't really ask them. The Yakas had been banished, not tortured. And if the people loved him so, like his memory suggested, then why had they turned on him? Why call for his lord's help if he was saving them? Because he wasn't. Like all the usurpers before him, he saw himself as a savior, a hero to the people. But all he brought was death. All he was a slaughterer. Like, Riri's right there, just ask him. I did not mean to scare you, the Yaka said, eyes still closed. We are in this bargain together, and I will protect you. Pink sunlight rose through lattice windows as she leveled an ember gaze. If you wanted to protect me, you would leave. You're the only threat here. The Yaka's eyes flashed open. Hurt sparked, but only for a moment, the mask of Toranaga falling so quickly. Anula questioned whether it had been there at all. Mayhap you are right. I suppose I should take advantage of the early start today. Music to my ears. The Yaka marched past, calling for servants to ready them. The beings from the memory nightmare flashed in her mind, so unlike the Yakas depicted in the painting. Was it true? You will have to come along, he said. If so, which part? Again, yeah, like, Anula is in her head asking these questions. Except Riri is right there. If she would have asked, I think he would have answered some of her questions at least. Because yeah, Riri is dying for some connection, right? And I think that's what the Yakas are built for. They're just built for connection. And yet, for whatever reason, Anula doesn't ask, doesn't even try. She just asks in her head, but doesn't even try. I would say though that some of the imagery, like the descriptions, are good. It's detailed, it's described vividly. If only that were applied in other things as well. It is a bit inconsistent. Like I said, with the spatial description, like where things are in relation to each other. There's nothing like that, but then we get the very detailed tattoo. Chapter 16, so now they start trying to find the bone blade. Riri and his Yakas kind of do their own thing. They haven't told Anula what they're looking for yet. They haven't told Anula what's gonna happen to her soul, because the plan is Riri would cleave into Anula's soul, like cleave it in half. So they'll take all the good parts of the soul, offer that to Lord Visamoni. They would take Anula's soul, like the good stuff. They'd use that to bargain for the freedom of the other Yakas. Chapter 17, Anula is thinking about the suggestions that the headboard gave her. They barely have chemistry. I don't. They're just snapping at each other, and for me, it doesn't even really work because their arguments could be easily solved by talking to each other. It could be easily solved by Anula asking the questions she's already asking in her head, but she doesn't. So it just feels kind of exhausting to hear them go this back and forth argument when really there's no need for it. It could have been solved quickly. And yet she's thinking about the things that the headboard said.
He is here for you, to give you a pleasure from the heavens, to make you feel the cosmos explode into being between your legs.
Like, Anula's fingers tingled, as did a particular soft spot beneath her sari. The image of the shadow and its sharp features buried between her thighs, her fingers entwined in wisps of shadow hair guiding him. Like, why is she thinking this when she doesn't really want to do anything with the Blood Yaka? It's getting tiring. I know it's not just her soul for a crown, but like other enemies to lovers books, it falls into this format of like, they're sniping, they don't trust each other, blah, blah. And yes, I get it. There's some tension that comes from that. But if you don't build that tension correctly, it just ends up like two characters just sniping at each other for no reason and then fantasizing about each other for no reason because the plot demanded it. And here, I can't feel their chemistry. It's not there. They just met each other. They barely talk to each other. The interactions that they have is either Riri trying to reach out and, be allies, and Anula either scorns him or storms off. There's no connection being built. There's not even a good tension between them, like a juicy tension to usher in this attraction. All the attraction came from the words of the magical headboard, which is very shallow. The Yakas are trying to find the bone blade in the shrines, in the palace. They spend days there trying to feel offerings because they think that they would feel something. It's not explained what exactly they should feel. Do they get like a heavenly aura? Do they feel tingles? Is there a light? Like, I don't know. I don't know what signs they're looking for. All it says is they're like searching for the offerings, sifting through them, and finding what feels important. They search for it. Anula is getting impatient. She thinks it's too long now. She wants her crown. So she decides she needs to break the bargain. And she does that by poisoning Riri, aka Choranaga. She invites him, or no, I think they're in the Raja's bedchamber and she's like serving tea, being all nice. And Riri is suspicious, of course. He does question it, like why is she acting like this? But he ends up drinking the tea. He is poisoned. Choranaga is dying. Riri's shadow form yeets out of the body and goes outside somewhere. And then Choranaga is like choking and stuff like that. And this is the second time that Anula did not expect her poisoning to go the way it did. Like Nuwan in the beginning. For some reason, this trained poisoner has messed up the dosage twice now. She kind of blames the book that she found as a child, but like, you found that as a child. You spent 12 years with Antinirma training. Would you not have learned something? Would you not have... And the poisons, because she stores the poisons in the necklace that she has. Oh, sorry, I'm touching the mic. She stores the poisons and the antidotes in the necklace that she has. It looks like sapphires and diamonds, but it's actually like the glass vials of the poisons. So she prepares the poisons. Theoretically, that would mean she knows what she's putting on her necklace. So does she not just know how to mix a poison? Like this specific poison, the same poison that almost killed that Nuwan person in the beginning? And she's supposed to be trained, like it's a point of pride for her that she has her poison. It's a point of security for her that she has this way to protect herself. And yet, this is the second time that she failed. In fact, the only time that we see her succeed in poisoning someone is when she put the persuasion tincture on the Raja's teacup. Okay, so Riri, Choranagar dies, Riri gets heated out. Riri possesses another body. And there's a new Raja. So there was Choranaga and now it's Vituk. And no one questions it. They just accept it. What is it? A few days. And there's a new Raja. Yet Anula stays on as Regina consort. And there's no comment about that. There's no backlash from other concubines. There's no gossips from the servants. There's no suspicions from the ministers. We don't get any of that. Instead, we continue on finding the bone blade. Anula's trying to break the bargain. Chapter 20. We get more comments from the headboard. There's a repeat, just a new Raja. They continue searching for the bone blade. Anula gets impatient. And now, instead of ending the bargain, she thinks, oh, I could maybe threaten Riri. And she thinks her leverage would be the bone blade. She goes to try and find the bone blade. She pretends to help them find the bone blade, but in reality, she wants to look for her own relic. Because in her mind, if Riri has a relic as a weapon, then maybe she can get a relic as well to use against the Yakas. But then that doesn't work. So now she's back to another plan. She's getting impatient again. The Yakas keep looking for the bone blade. Anula thinks, I can't threaten the bone blade. I don't have that leverage, but I do have a leverage and it's innocent lives. Because Riri tries to convince Anula that he's not the bad guy, that he's actually just wanting to help everyone. Because if Lord Vesamoni is not stopped, if Lord Vesamoni gets the bone blade, then the heavens and earth will be in danger. So Riri is doing this for earth as well. And Anula doesn't believe that. So she thinks, if Riri really cares about human lives, I would threaten an innocent life, one life per day, until he gives me the crown. So this is the same character that said in the beginning, what's the point of being Regina if she doesn't have people? And now she's doing this, like threatening an innocent life until Riri gives the crown. And of course, it's a bluff. It's a bluff. But what ends up happening is Riri and Anula get into this argument. They kind of call each other's bluff. Riri says, you won't do it. You care for your people. Anula says, oh really? Watch me. And then she kisses him. And she has like poison in her lips. So she kisses him, poisons Raja Vituk, and the same thing happens. Riri's shadow form yeets out of the body, finds another person. Vituk is convulsing, almost dying. Every time Riri gets yeeted out, it hurts Anula. The tether tattoo bond, it like flays off, kind of like if they're too far apart. So yeah, every time it happens, she gets hurt, and so it's the same result. Riri gets yeeted out, the tattoo flays. Anula, Bithul is there, kind of helping. Oh, Bithul at this point I think knows now that they're yakas. He's in on the secret. Anula's like, help him, help, heal Vituk. Riri managed to help Vituk through a bargain. Yeah, so now there's a different Raja. That's the one, two. There's Choranaga, Vituk, and this third one that I don't know, I forgot the name. But yeah, you see what I mean when it's repeating? This is the actions of someone trained to be queen. I mean, she's not expected to run the country. Like, Auntie Nirma had people for that. Basically, Anula was the figurehead. She's just there to approve everything that the other people are doing. Disappointing, because Anula started out great in the first part, like when she walked to the ministers and, demanded change, but then she's doing this kind of flip-floppy thing. Her goal is still the same, but then her methods is like so random. It doesn't make sense. And this is supposed to be from a character who was trained, who was groomed to be queen. Not a good look. Anula kind of brings this up later on, that maybe she's not ready. If that is the thread that you want to connect in her character arc, I think in part 2 that should have been more evident. She's just reacting on her desire for revenge. She feels impatient that she doesn't have the crown yet. She feels impatient that she can't kill the prophet yet because the yakas need him. She can't kill the commander yet, so her revenge is on hold and she feels impatient, and she's just reacting based on that. She wants the crown now, now, now. And so her actions were based on that instead of, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm not sure if this is the right choice. If her choices were based on that she's inexperienced or that she doesn't really know what to do anymore, then I think that would be a better tie to the character arc in part 3, where she says, I was just following Auntie Nirma's plan and now she's gone, I don't think I'm ready. That would be a good character tie, yeah, but that wasn't the focus on part 2, or like it wasn't expressed well in part 2. Instead, it's just her frustration about not getting the crown now. So there's a disconnect between that. Anyway, eventually they see each other's dreams. They start to like talk. The first time that Anula has a nightmare about the village being destroyed, Riri asks, do you want to talk about it? And that becomes their thing. But note that the attraction was before they started to talk. Like they kissed before they started to talk. It was a poison kiss, but it was still a kiss. Anula realizes that the only way for her to get the crown as soon as possible is to work together. And Riri is like, oh yeah, our bargain is as it's supposed to be. Because obviously, yeah, from the very start, they should just have helped each other to help themselves. The faster they get the bone blade, the faster Anula gets the crown. But it took a while for them for some reason. Again, this is not just in her Soul for a Crown. It's in a lot of enemies to lovers books these days, where the hatred is prolonged to get that enemies part. But then what are they fighting about? What are they clashing on? It's probably just some petty thing that could be resolved by communicating. Yeah, chapter 21, by the way, was the part where Choranaga was poisoned. Anula genuinely starts helping them find the bone blade. She has this scene with Sohon where they're like searching the markets, and she kind of mocks Sohon about his ability. So he is the Yaka of memory. He writes books that transcribes the memories of the human. The way that he gets the memories is through eating a body part. If you think about it, that's kind of gross, but they're also demons, so like it's not really the same. Anyway, Anula kind of mocks him for it, jabs at him for it, and then on the next scene, she is suddenly giving him a book that he could remember. Because Sohon, he doesn't remember any of the books that he writes. Once the offering is given, it's gone from his mind. So after that talk in the market where Anula mocks him for eating liver and stuff like that, the next scene she's suddenly giving him a book, which is kind of abrupt. There's no, again, one of the issues in this book is that there's no setup, there's no lead up to an emotional beat. There's no clear narrative or emotional beats, or there's no lead up to them. This is also affected by the very fast pacing. Like, the chapters are short. There's no room for build up. There's no room to set up the building relationships between the Yakas and Anula, especially Anula and Riri. If the pacing was a bit more, I see the irony, because I know I've complained about books that are being very slow paced, but this one is too fast now. So we have to find a middle ground. If the pace were slowed, if more setup were done between the relationships between Anula and the Yakas, I think it would work more. Because Anula's arc is, realizing that there are living people that are still important to her. She lost her family, yes, but she still has people now who cares for her and who she could care for in return. And then she realizes revenge much. It's not worth risking that. It could have worked more if we could have more setup and build up with her relationships with the other characters. Her friendship with Pramala was shaky in the beginning because her interest in her was not for friendship but to discern if she was an ally or not. And Pramala actually calls her out later on that Anula was not searching for her and getting close to her because she wanted to be friends. She wanted to see if she was an ally or an enemy. And she was right. That was what Anula was doing. And Anula herself admits that she was not trained for friendship. She was not trained to make friends, basically. Some of the character relationships fell flat, except Riri and the Yakas, especially Riri and Kalu. I think their relationship is really nice compared to the other interpersonal relationships. I think theirs is the most believable, most grounded. It's really wholesome and sweet. They are walking through the market, just trying to fill out the bone blade, trying to like asking merchants, like, oh, have you heard about this relic? And then conveniently, Nuwan appears and says he has the bone blade. In exchange for the bone blade, Nuwan wants a magical painting. So the magical paintings and all the other blessings, like the heavenly gifts, they are not supposed to leave the palace. It's illegal to take it out, but Nuwan wants a painting in exchange for the bone blade. So they do it. They give it to him. Again, I don't know what they're looking for. What do they feel if they find the bone blade? What does it feel like? They know what it looks like, sort of, but what does it feel like? If you're looking for this magical energy, what does that feel? I don't know. So Nuwan says, I have the bone blade. Okay, they make a bargain. They make a trade. Before the trade is set up, because like Nuwan has to wait a few days or something. Pramala, in disguise, takes Anula away from the street and says, hey, do you still want your bargain broken? I can help you. So Anula follows Pramala and they go to this one room where an exorcism is happening. Pramala is actually part of the modern day Katadiya, the exorcist cults. They're doing an exorcist and they have Anula watch it. They are exorcising a bargainer that made a bargain with Kalu. The Yakas, they are making this essence offering to add to the ritual that they're going to do to defeat Lord Vesamoni. Kalu, as the Yaka of the mind, curse this person with insanity as per requested by another person, but then the Katadiya found the magically insane person and they lifted the curse, so he's okay now. So Kalu's offering is void, so now he needs to find another offering. Pramala and the Katadiya leader, the Katadiya leader, they invite Anula in their group, saying that they could help break her bargain, and Anula says yes, because what if the bone blade is not real and she needs a plan B? So she says yes. I don't know. It feels very wishy-washy. It doesn't seem like the action of a trained future queen. I was really frustrated with Anula. She made frustrating choices. I don't mind if she makes bad choices and mistakes because that's part of the character. But if she makes decisions that contradict her goals, that contradict her character, then that's not a good decision. She's not supposed to make that choice then. Kind of like with threatening the lives of her people just to get the crown. It is a bluff, but then when Riri called her out, she went through it, which means she was prepared to risk one life just to prove a point. And then in the beginning, we were told like she's doing this for the people. She wants to help the kingdom. So now she's making these choices that are not aligned to her original goals. It turns out the bone blade from Nuwan is fake. They try to activate it and it backfires. It explodes in their face, kind of literally. While they're doing this, Anula is hanging out with the Katadiya and she finds out that the Katadiya called Lord Vesamoni when the Yakas were partying, and then Lord Vesamoni came down and yanked them back to the second heaven. It was the Katadiya's fault. They called Lord Vesamoni. The Yakas didn't know that before. Anula changed her mind about the Yakas. She wants to help them now. Oh, she also found out that the Katadiya were like beating people if they did something wrong in the cult. They would like whip them. Anula realizes her choice to join the Katadiya was a mistake, but it's too late now. She's sworn into the cult. Like there's like a blood thing that she did. So instead of just avoiding them, she goes back one more time to try to save Pramala, but Pramala won't see it. Pramala is also verbally abused by the Katadiya because she lacks the sense of worth. She can't see that she's being used, so she couldn't leave. Anyway, the Katadiya do this ritual, like this big exorcism ritual with or without Anula's cooperation. And they do this while they're closer to the Maha season. So Lord Vesamoni is almost here. They haven't found the bone blade yet. Kalu doesn't have his offering. So they're pressed for time. And then Anula realizes, oh, the bone blade is with the Katadiya. How did she realize this? They were searching within paintings to see if like the bone blade was there. And then she realizes, oh, the paintings down in the Katadiya tunnels, they have relics, which is the first time I'm hearing about it. I don't, maybe I missed missed the descriptions, but the first time Anula went down to the tunnels, there was a painting of the first Guru Turuma, the leader. There's that portrait of the leader where she gave her blood and stuff like that. But there's no other paintings that she described. There's statues, there's paintings. Didn't really describe them. Or she described them, but it didn't register that they were holding relics. I didn't notice. I thought it was never described at all. So I don't know if I missed it or it's just not there. Anyway, I was surprised that there were paintings that had relics down in the tunnels, but Anula realizes this, so they go down to Kadatia, found this statue of fate holding the blade, and they take it and they're like, oh yes, this is the blade. And then they're surrounded by the Katadia because it turns out it's a fake again. Again, I have to ask, how would they know that it's the true blade? What are the requirements or what are the signs they're looking for to say, oh, this is the blade? Does it shine? Does it give off the smell of onion? What? I don't know. We don't know. They don't know. They fell for 2 traps already. There are good descriptions in the book, but then when it matters, it's not there. Yeah, the Katadia, they corner them. They have to flee. They, run away from the Katadia. And then Anula again realizes, oh, I know where the real bone blade is. And she goes to the original painting of the Katadia leader and she asks, can I have the bone blade, please? And the woman in the painting gives it to her. So now they have the real bone blade. And they do the ritual to summon Lord Vasamoni to kill him. So while they're doing the ritual, they're putting their offerings, blah, blah, blah. The magic is ripping Anula's soul. So it's taking all the good things, leaving the bad things. And Riri stops the ritual. He can't do it. He can't sacrifice Anula because he loves her. This is actually a nice moment. I like Riri's character. He was a bit stagnant. Like there's no big change to him throughout the book, but I do like the way he protects his family. When he says he can't do it, he can sacrifice Anula's soul because he loves her. He kind of falls to his knees and begs Yaka's forgiveness that he couldn't do it. And then he offers himself instead, like, I'll sacrifice my soul instead of Anula's and then do this ritual. And then Kalu comforts him and says that we never blamed you. We still love you. And then they hug, which is really wholesome. I like it, really sweet. One of my favorite things in the book as well is like the relationship between the Yaka. I think I mentioned in the beginning, but yeah, I like their family. I like how close they are, especially Riri and Kalu. So yeah, they ended up saying, yeah, no, we're not gonna sacrifice you either. So what are we gonna do? And then before they could do anything, Polonnaruwa attacks. They are in the castle, in the palace. How? I don't know. Commander Dilshan appeared once. Riri arranged a conversation with the commander and Anula. And the commander says, we're winning the war. So Anuradhapura is winning the war. We're doing great. And then when they're in the room, he tells Anula that actually he sold off 2 villages to Polonnaruwa in exchange for power. The 2 villages are now in Polonnaruwa's hands. Anula makes the decision to send an army to those 2 villages. And then later on, we realize Commander Dilshan lied. The village were not under Polonnaruwa yet, but they just used the village to set up an ambush for the armies. So Anula sent armies, they got ambushed in the village, and then the village ended up being in Polonnaruwa hands in the end. I don't know if I'm missing something here, but if the point was to bring Anuradhapura armies to those 2 villages so that they could ambush them, why did Commander Dilshan report they're winning the war? Would it not make more sense to be like, I need help, we need to send armies to the 2 villages? Why did he say we're winning the war in public and then tell Anula, actually I gave them to Polonnaruwa? That would just implicate him as a traitor, in case the plan doesn't work out. That would just implicate him as a traitor. If he just said, oh, we're losing, we need help here, he wouldn't need to confess about, working with Polonnaruwa. If it's clearer to any of you guys, let me know, because I don't know the point, why that happened, or maybe I missed something. Let me know. It's close to the Maha equinox. It's hours away. Polonnaruwa ambushed the palace. Apparently they were sneaking inside for days now. No one noticed. And again, I have to bring up that we don't really see anything of the world beyond what Riri and Anula are looking at. If the 2 main characters are not interacting with something or someone, it's like it doesn't exist. It's like it lacks object permanence. Once it's not within their field of vision, it's gone. Were they not guards that were looking for signs that Polonnaruwa is gonna attack? Because they are in the middle of a war, so they would be pretty alert. So why did no one get alerted? How come that the Polonnaruwans were able to get all the way to the palace without alerting anyone? They just snuck in, no one noticed, and then they just pulled out weapons when they were close to the palace? What's going on? I don't know. Because yeah, we don't really get to see anything of the world if Anula or Riri are not involved with it. Which Riri should be, because he is in the body of the Raja. So at least he should have some, Raja things to do, but no, there's nothing of that. Yeah, anyway, they fight. Oh, my crown again. Riri gave me a cheap crown. Anyway, there's a fight going on. They battle it out. While the Polonary ones are attacking, the Katadiya capture Riri and they start exercising him. They tied him down in the pit and they were torturing him. They were trying to get him to summon Anula and the bone blade. I don't know why they wanted a bone blade, but Riri would not do it. He says he can't, but if he could, he wouldn't either. Anula fights off the invaders. She rounds up the civilians, helps the civilians, and they save people and usher them into the tunnels because that's the safest place where the Katadiya is currently torturing Riri. So they're now all in this underground pit, like caverns with a pit, and the Lord Vesamoni comes down because it is the Maha season. The Yakas are pinned to the wall with Lord Vesamoni's giant golden blade like at the throat. Chaos ensues, and then here comes my favorite part. Lord Vesamoni controls Anula. He controlled Anula to attack the Guru Dutama, but the leader pulled in Pramala's girlfriend, like she pulled it in front of her. So Pramala pushed her girlfriend away. What happened was Anula beat Pramala with a stone until her skull was crushed because Lord Vesamoni controlled her to do it. This was grim and kind of shocking, but I loved it because finally we have some high stakes and high tension. And honestly, I did not like Pramala anyway, so I was like, okay. But yeah, she bashed her head in. And at this point, like it's pretty late in the book, but it got my attention again because yeah, high stake, consequences, risks, it's all there in one setting. So Lord Vesamoni was just like wreaking havoc, like splitting the room open. There's another pit, people are falling in. Anula dropped the bone blade, so it's like on the floor. You know that trope where they're like trying to catch the object while people are like running around, that kind of thing. The Katadiya leader gets the bone blade and she summons Fate, capital F. So Fate, as this sacred fish, she starts battling Lord Vesamoni. And yeah, so again, I was hyped up because finally we have some action, we have some cosmic beings having a showdown. So they're like tearing this room apart, they're throwing boulders, the humans are like dodging, some humans are being controlled by Vesamoni, some humans are like after Anula because she has the blade, and yeah, it's chaos. And then Riri gets the blade and he's already like poised to kill Lord Vesamoni, but he can't do it. The bone blade was made for humans, so it has to be a human who wields it. So he's like waiting for Anula to make her choice, because if they kill Vesamoni, chances are the Yakas would die as well because they were created by Vesamoni. There's some lore that I'm not telling you here because it's quite elaborate, but we'll just leave it off for now. If Lord Vesamoni dies, the Yakas might die as well. So Riri's kind of waiting for Anula's decision so they can do it together. They both decide they have to kill Vesamoni, whatever the cost. Because yeah, he's wreaking havoc. He can't have the bone blade because then he'll wreak havoc on both heaven and earth. So Riri is prepared to die and not see Anula again. And Anula, she's scared that if Riri gets yeeted out of the body, would he be able to come back? She doesn't really know. But at the same time, her kingdom is in danger. The heavens are in danger, so they kill Lord Vesamoni. A black hole opens up basically, and all the Yaka shadows are vacuumed up into the cosmic void, including Lord Vesamoni. Anula and Fate, because Fate's still there, are left with this chaos and destruction and death. And then Fate is like looking at Anula, hinting like there's more, you can do more. And then Anula realizes she has the bone blade, she can revive all the people that died in the room. She prays to Fate and Fate answers, and she helps like time, you know, like in Doctor Strange where they rewind everything. It's like that, they rewind everything. Anula was cutting the hands of death because there's this figure, like a shadowy figure with this grin and many hands trying to get people. So Anula was running around cutting off hands. Bithul almost died. Anula was like, there are too many hands, can't be there at once. And then she realizes there are many hands, but there's only one arm, one wrist. So she cut off Death's arm and everyone is alive again, including Pramala. The Katadiya leader, she left her dying. Oh yeah, by the way, the Katadiya leader, I liked how she was handled as well, because while they were fighting, Anula took her necklace of poisons, wrapped it around the Katadiya leader's neck, like made a garrote, and then smashed all the weapons on her chest. All her poisons and antidotes and everything were all mixing together, and she was just like bubbling and bursting with poison, and they let her die. The end is Pramala becomes the new leader of the Katadiya, because while she didn't have a spine before, she did help Riri and Anula with the vanquishing of Lord Vesamoni, and she did sacrifice herself for her girlfriend, because the Katadiya's motto is working to help others, not for yourself, something like that. Pramala embodied that with like giving her life for her girlfriend. So yeah, the Yakas are gone. Anula doesn't know what's going on with them, so they focus on fixing the kingdom. After things calmed down, Fate was still there, and then so people are fighting because like they need a Raja. Anula was like, okay, stop, what's going on? The people say, we need a Raja, we need a leader, we're leaderless. Bithul nominates Anula. And the people also vote for Anula, so they chose her to be queen. At this point, she didn't want to be queen. I don't remember why. I think it was because she had plans if Riri didn't come back. I think she would look for him, something like that. I'm not so sure. Actually, oh yeah, I forgot to say, the romance part for Riri and Anula in part 3 was okay for me. That part where Riri couldn't do the ritual to destroy Anula's soul and offered his soul instead. I like that part. I like all the parts when they were fighting Lord Vasamoni, when they were like waiting for each other to make the decision. It's just the build up that was lacking in part 2. If we had that, if their relationship was built more on emotional bonds, then it would make the relationship in part 3 satisfying. Yeah, unfortunately, part 2 was not giving. Where was I? Yeah, they vote Anula as queen, and Anula says, yeah, sure, I'll do it. We'll leave Anula there for now, because we're gonna go to Riri's POV. So they're thrown into this black hole. They kind of go through the cosmos. They're ripped apart, put together, another big bang, things like that. And then the cosmos was undone, and then it remade itself. So there's new balance now. Riri becomes aware again. He has his own original body. They're at this gate where the two heavens meet. The divines come out and say, yes, balance is restored again. Good work. But now we need a new lord for the second heaven. The Yakas are like, what? Why? Well, because that's part of the balance. The Yakas vote for Riri to become the new lord. The new lord would have to respect the balance, so the new lord can only go back to earth twice. Riri has to go back and forth between second heaven and earth. He can only come down during the Maha season. He accepts being lord. He is a fair lord. They're all happy. They live, love, laughing. The Yakas are no longer banished on earth. They're allowed to go down and make bargains as long as they keep the balance. Yeah, now the universe is balanced, so they shouldn't tip it again. It's all fixed. So yeah, we have this last several scenes where Anula is like preparing. She's in the Raja's room, still fixing the mess, and then she hears Riri's voice, and she's like, oh, you're back. And yeah, Riri explains the Lord needs to oblige by the rules. Yeah, and then they commune physically. I don't know. It's okay, I guess. But yeah, that's the plot. Oh my god, that's the whole plot. Just one last note about the writing. As I mentioned before, like some of the descriptions are good, the imagery, the lore, you know, with the paintings, the two heavens, the blessings, it's very interesting. I think the writing just lacks in connecting all the threads, like with Anula's arc and the pacing, setting up emotional and narrative beats to make it land, focusing more, because there was a lack of focus in part 2. It kind of meandered and dragged a bit there. And then there's also the overused metaphors with the water tank, the rice paddies. If a character can't move properly, they always make a metaphor about, oh, like, it's like walking through rice paddies. And then there's the bee stung lips. It's been said 6 times only, but because it's a very specific image, it hits you every time. And it's used for like plump lips. It's very kissable lips. But bee stung lips sounds painful. It doesn't sound kissable. I would not want to kiss a bee stung lips. It was jarring. It was ridiculous for me. I couldn't take it seriously. I get the image. I get what it was trying to do, but yeah, bee stung lips sounds painful. And then there's the water tank. There's the part in the last couple of scenes where when Riri and Anula were communing physically, there was a metaphor made about a water tank bursting. Overall, 3.75 stars.
Hi, just me from the future here. I just wanted to correct. Originally, I gave the book 3.75 stars, but having gone through editing and listening to myself go through the plot, I think I want to bring down the rating to 2 stars. I think I was being generous at the time for giving it a 3.75, but yeah, after listening to myself giving the plot back to me, like retelling the plot, I realized there are a lot of things that didn't work for me with this book. So yeah, unfortunately, I am rating it down to 2 stars.
I like the story. I liked the lore. I liked the mythology. I liked the dynamic between the Yakas. And I liked the part of the romance between Riri and Anula at the end. So yeah, not a terrible book. It was just uneven, like part 1, part 2, and then part 3. It is a debut novel, so there is a lot of potential. We just need to sort the writing out. I think what the book lacked was developmental editing. If that was sorted out, like the polish, then it would be a solid 4-star, I think. Would I read more books from the author? I think so. This is a debut. Who knows what improvements she can make in the next book. I would be interested in seeing, especially since the author said she likes to write about obscure historical figures, and she's drawing from Sri Lankan mythology as well, so that is interesting to me. Those are my thoughts for her Soul for a Crown. Let me know if you've read the book. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if you're planning on reading it now, or if you plan on not reading it anymore. Yeah, that's all for me today. I will see you next. Oh, actually, I'm waiting for my copy of A.K. Caggiano's A Throne in the Dark, the deluxe edition. I listened to the audiobook already, so I know, but I'm waiting for my deluxe edition. I'll wait to read that and then make a review. That's definitely a 5-star book for me. If you have recommendations of books that you want me to talk about, maybe let me know in the comments. Any questions, concerns, suggestions, let me know. For now, I'll leave you here. I will see you next week. Bye. Peace, tongue lips.